Welcome back to another PT Pearl from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Doc Jen.
And I'm Dr. Dom.
And today we're talking about foam rolling. What is it? Is it really important? How should you do it? What is it even doing? Let's dissect it here.
Foam rolling and foam rollers, they just kind of land under this umbrella that is these tools that we use on our bodies and we use for self-massage or self-myofascial release. And, you know, myofascial release is a good term and it can be deceiving. Something that I didn't even say this term as we were discussing beforehand, but I think that a good term to use would be like neuronal stimulation or tools that work with neuronal stimulation or something like that, sensory stimulation, because that's really essentially what it is. Yeah.
So now let's bring it back to foam rolling, right? What does it do? And I think we already threw out the common myths, and we know that those aren't really happening. Breaking up adhesion, scar tissue.
We need to smash it out. We need to feel the pain. I think that's one that everyone's like, oh, let's use these really hard balls, lacrosse balls, golf balls. I've seen people like standing on golf balls, and we don't want our body to guard against the stimulus. It has to be something our body's ready to accept and work with. If you feel like you're fighting against your foam roller, you might want to search for something a little harder or find a little less intense technique to use.
Softer, you mean? Search for something softer.
Search for something softer.
Don't search for something harder.
If you feel like you're fighting against it, get something harder.
Yeah, maybe not the right direction. But yeah, that's the idea, was especially if you thought that it was breaking something up, then I would need something hard in order to do that, right? And we now know we're not manipulating the fascia or changing it.
There's an area in our brain called the Periaqueductal Gray. You know, the only thing you need to know about that area is that it basically releases our body's own endorphins, like our body's own morphine that we make inside our brain.
Our drug cabinet in our brain.
Medicine cabinet's unlocked, and it shoots that down to the entire body to say like, hey, let's relax the pain response a little bit. And that's why sometimes if you're foam rolling your calf and the pain was in your calf, but also have some pain in your shoulder, it might also help that pain in your shoulder.
You dive into an ice bath or you take an ice shower, and you might notice some other area of your body also not feeling pain as much.
Say we sit for 4 hours a day for a few, consistently, or longer, people who sit in stationary jobs, we talk about a lot. Like, that's the message you're typing into your fascia for that entire day. And so then we get surprised months down the road when we feel like we have all these adhesions and knots, and we probably do because we haven't been giving our fascia enough stimulus with a foam roller or just with movement to promote more fluid transfer, to promote more fluid movement.
Yeah.
And so when we use these tools, these foam rollers, it's going to help synovial fluid and different lubricants like hydrolonic acid to come to those areas and promote more gliding of those fascial layers along each other, especially when we do those practices somewhat consistently throughout the day and throughout life.
We do know that it's had positive effects, and that has been studied. It can positively improve range of motion. Temporary, for sure. It can positively reduce your guarding and your tension within the body. That's all positive response. Improve fluid movement, like get you decreased pain in an area for a certain period of time. And we do have studies on all of that. We don't necessarily always know the mechanism, but we do know that it improves.
One thing that I read this specifically on Jill Miller's website with Tune Up Fitness. Yeah, and we'll link some of her articles that we read before this, but they had a significant increase in range of motion when they did rolling with her ball specifically. But again, science will loosely transfer, not exactly, but they got improved range of motion and also improved force production.
Exactly. Well, increasing proprioception to an area is just going to help to have more awareness of where it is in space. And so if you're having trouble accessing your glutes, if you're having trouble, or maybe you feel they're tight, your hips are restricted, well, now I'm going to put, foam roller or a little tune-up fitness ball, because those are the ones we like, not lacrosse balls.
Absolutely.
If we're going to maybe roll in the area for a little bit and then go do squats and then go do patterning, it can increase your force production, increase your range of motion, and make you more aware of those glutes.
No, as we say to almost everything, there's not going to be one specific way that is the best way for everyone to foam roll. And doing it a little bit before a workout. Yeah, if I want to improve my range of motion and maybe have some more awareness of a certain area in my body. For me, I'm going to foam roll right side upper thoracic. I'm going to foam roll my low back a little bit, maybe my hips, because I know those are the areas that I tend to hold a lot more of my tension. And I might want to loosen those things up.
So I think in relation to like when to do it, how often to do it, all these other things, right? We kind of touch on this. You could do it a little bit before you work out, for sure. But if you're doing it for the purpose of really relaxing and opening up range of motion, that would be better to do after a workout. So if you really want to start to use the breathing techniques that we talk about, create this really relaxed system, down regulate after a workout, that is one of my favorite times to do foam rolling. Or if I'm just having a recovery day, if I just doing a little walk and doing a little mobility, like getting on a little foam roll session feels great on those days.
I mean, if I had to say my personal 4 times that come into my mind right away, it would be when I wake up in the morning, before I'm going to do some more intense movement, or before I'm going to do some movement that really requires, so before exercising, something that really requires my attention and my awareness, right after that session, and before I go to bed. And when you're doing it, you direct the techniques that you're going to use based on what you're trying to achieve. Before I go to bed, I'm trying to relax. I'm going to be doing foam rolling to my upper back and neck, my places that I have a little more pain, to just kind of relax, down regulate, get my body prepared for sleep versus when
deep breathing.
Right? Versus when I'm waking up in the morning, I know my ankles and my knees and my hips they still have a day of work ahead of them. And I might focus a lot more on my calves so that my ankles can open up a little bit, my hips so that I don't get my pinching in the front of my hips, before I do my morning squats.
I mean, same. So if I want to relax my quads, sometimes I do like to do a little foam rolling session. And again, this isn't like you're just rolling through as quickly as possible. That's kind of crazy, right? We are still looking for that comfortable pain. That's really how we're going to start to stimulate that noxious stimuli,
I think
right?
Jill says a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. And so that's really going to, that DNIC that we mentioned before, right? And if we want to get that to really be inhibited and start to work, then we have to find some kind of pain that's not so much it's going to guard us and create so much pain, but also enough stimulus that it's going to wake up the system to say, oh, this is painful enough for me to pay attention to and drop in my own self-regulating drugs in my own system, right? And so if you do that, maybe you hold, you find some different areas, you kind of do some breathing with it, you kind of find, how it can kind of relax. And then I do a quad stretch directly after that. So maybe it is still on my mobility days when I'm not doing a lot of movement, but I'm still going to say, okay, how can I use this to find a better range of motion that's actually going to carry over, that's actually going to create more stretch, more range of motion, So that's how I'll use it with down regulation after a workout or on a recovery day. But like you said, directly before workout as well, just trying to kind of wake up those areas and then do some squats, do some movement, do some ways that you're typically restricted. Maybe that's even sitting crisscross on the floor for a second and then getting back up and doing that a couple times.
5 minutes of just directed foam rolling in 1 or 2 areas will be so much more beneficial. Again, because we get some of these systemic responses along with the local responses that you get physiologically. So, I mean, that's where I would just tell everybody, again, regardless of the specific technique or specific area, just do it with really good intention and awareness. I mean, you can be chatting with a friend and stuff, but don't be chatting with a friend, just seesawing back and forth over your foam roller. Yeah,
very true. And with that as well, I think we want to go back and just mentioning, if it's hurting so bad, back off.
Lighten up.
You really don't. It's not necessary.
Not an 11 out of 10, 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's really, really not necessary. And if you start to notice, oh, well, I'm doing it more, so it hurts less, that's not a reason to increase the hardness at all. Yeah. Again, we're not breaking up tissue. We're not changing it. So in that regard, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean harder is better. But now we were talking about foam rolling, so we should probably say the foam roller that we, of course, recommend the most, which is the Intelliroll. I've been using it personally for, I think it's been 4 years now. That's a long time. And it's the one that I consistently come back to, not only because of the smart design, the way that it's designed to mold with your body, but the intent behind how it was built. And I don't necessarily always like the firm. And a lot of people ask, like, which one should I get, the firm or the flex? If you're going to start out, get the flex, get the blue one. It's pretty. And it's a little softer. So when we're starting to introduce, okay, now I have the correct intention as to what I'm foam rolling for. Now I can use it to really start to improve these ranges of motion or proprioception or whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, and like you said, the intelligent design of this foam roller, the Intelliroll, is so vital because it allows a place for your spine, it allows a place for all the contours of the different joints of the body, and you can just get into areas, get more surface contacts where even if you are using the firm, I like the firm. I don't mind, you know, how hard it is. It's not like a spiky foam roller that just like is way too aggressive. Again,
way too aggressive.
You just threw spikes on a foam roller just to like put more pressure, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for it to work with the body, and the Intelliroll really does that because it helps that contour. It helps to spread the pressure out, hit more of those mechanoreceptors.
Feels absolutely amazing on the spine. Anyone who lays on it, like the first response is just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like it is unparalleled to any other thing when you lay on it specifically for the spine. But like you said, the way that it's built around the edges for the pecs, for the QL and into that low back, because most foam rollers, you can't really roll your low back at all. But this one, you really can. I mean, just it's phenomenal. So if you are looking for a great foam roller that's truly effective, that's going to move with you and work with you, you can get the Intelliroll. We'll link it in the show notes.
Same with the Tune Up Fitness and all their goodies. Fitness.
And you can use code DocJen, and that gets you 10% off the Intelliroll as well. This wasn't supposed to be an ad at all. However, I'm just telling you, if you want to go get it and get 10% off, use code DocJen at checkout.
Absolutely. And just know next time you're using tools and next time you're doing this, do it with a little bit more intention. Do it with a little bit more focus on the areas that your body might need, depending on what your goals are for that day, for that workout. And you're going to see such better results. Thanks again for joining us for another PT Pearl on foam rolling, but really all the tools that we like to use to get a little more directed awareness into those bodies. So we'll link up the foam roller, link up those therapy tune-up balls if you're interested in getting those at all. Also, just comment below. Let us know what you learned, what you have questions on. If you have any other topics you want us to cover, subscribe, all the things. We'll see you next time.